Keystone Cops.
What's going on, guys? It's been a crazy couple of weeks, and the sun is in a good spot. I love when I can shoot in natural light, and I know I haven't made a video in a while, and I wanted to kind of update you guys on why I hadn't made a video and what's been going on, all of those good things. So why have I not made a video in a little bit? The first thing is I've really gotten back into my computer thing, my PC building hobby, which I was in that hobby before I got into knives, but now that I do YouTube, the two kind of go hand in hand, and over the past 2 years now, I've really gotten a good computer built and now upgraded and pretty much now totally turned over into a new PC. Now I've upgraded from air cooling to water cooling. So I had a few parts break that I needed to replace. I had the table full of things while I was building my water cooling loop. Just craziness, lots of family stuff, life, etc., etc., etc. But we're a minute in, and I know the first thing that people are going to say is, you haven't talked about the knives. So, while all that was going on, everything on this table besides these two things came in. These two, the Okluma DCO, DC0, and the Hogue Deca, both came from my buddy Alan. He was nice enough to send those to me so I could check them out before mailing them off to him. So let's kind of start, and we'll go around this way, starting with the Deca. The Deca is a smaller knife. A lot of people are talking about it being similar to a bug out, and this knife does have 20 CV steel. Let's see, which side is that on? There we go. You can tell I haven't handled this knife a lot. So it's 20 CV steel, so you get a little bump in the steel. It is $140, $150. It does come in a drop point and a Wharncliffe blade style. Initial impressions, I like the knife a lot. I don't have anything really negative to say. Maybe the only thing that I can see just off of first impressions would be maybe this grind is a little bit thick. And let me address that. There's been a lot of talk about thickness behind the edge and not wanting to hear about it, or people mentioning it but not really mentioning it in the correct context. When I mentioned in my last video that I can't even remember what knife that was now, but it was a knife that people got pretty upset about. I mentioned that a knife I know what it was. It was the TRM Atom. I mentioned that that knife had very thin blade stock, which as you can see, this also has very thin blade stock. However, it was not thin behind the edge. It was about the same thickness as any other production knife, right around that 20 thousandths mark, which is what I showed using the calipers. So let me explain that a little bit more before we move on. This knife, when I say it might be a little thick behind the edge, a little thick behind the edge, considering when you look at this stock, you're thinking, oh man, I'm gonna get just a razor blade. This is just gonna slice like a demon. But the first thing you have to overcome, and I want you guys to think about this, if the edge of a knife is a wedge like this, there is what's called a shoulder before you transition up onto the primary grind of the knife. So the first thing you have to overcome is this thickness behind the edge, this right here. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about thickness behind the edge, and that's what you're constantly meeting the material with first before you get to the primary grind. And there are variations in primary grind, and obviously something like a hollow grind is going to start off thin at the base and get thicker at the top. Full flat grind is going to be a pretty gradual wedge, etc., etc., etc. So just because a knife has a thin blade stock does not mean that it is thin behind the edge. And just because the blade stock is thin does not mean that the overall performance of the knife is not going to cut on par with an average knife. I hope that was clear. I can revisit that at a later date, but I think that's enough for now. So this I like. It's not necessarily my style, but honestly, this camo pattern or whatever they call it is growing on me. One thing that I saw, and now I can't unsee, in JT Knife Life's video was the fact that there are all these screws. It functions, it works, it does its thing, but I guess aesthetically, if you've been around for a while, you know I'm not always huge on the aesthetics, because once you start using the knife, you're not really looking at the knife. So yeah, maybe a bit of a pain if I needed to take this apart or something, but overall, you know, I think it'll be fine. The next thing I got in was this Strider AR 0.75. This is a shrunken down version of the Strider AR. There are a few things, I'm going to do dedicated videos on all of these knives, but there are a few things on here that I really like, and there are a few things that I would like to see improved. But overall, it is a very solid knife, as I'm sure you could tell by the size and the shape in here. Let me get the Deca out so you guys that might have access to one of those can kind of tell exactly the size and thickness we're talking about. I don't have my S&G with me, but it's fairly close in size to an S&G. I like the knife overall, but like I said, there are a few finishing things that I would like to see done a little bit differently. But like I said, I'll get into that a little bit later. One of the things that I was happy to see is that this is an S35VN, so we've gotten away from, at least for the moment, some of this 20CV, M390 stuff, etc. This here, I got my Scout back. If you guys watched my last video, maybe I mentioned it. I know I mentioned it on my Instagram page, but I sent the Scout back in. The Scout, the plunge grind was off a little bit, and now I think you can see it is much better. And if you don't know what a plunge grind is, it is, if you see the two shoulders at the very edge of the blade here, up at the tip of my thumb, if I can get that to focus. Let's see. There we go. That right there is the plunge grind, right between my index finger and my thumb. And one side was a little bit higher than the other. It's not perfect, but it's much better than it was. Jason did everything he could to get this knife back to me very quickly. I think overall in his work, once it got back to him, I think it was like a week, maybe not even a week. He had which I'm pretty sure it's another blade that was put into this handle. So he did have this turned around incredibly quickly for me. There are a few things I want to talk about with this knife though, so that'll be coming up in another video. But like I said, Jason, he did everything that he could to make sure that he got my knife back. He fixed the things that I was concerned about to the best of his ability and got it back to me as quickly as he possibly could. The next thing, this is the DCO or DC0. This is an Okluma light. It's a custom light made out of titanium, made from a guy named Jeff in Oklahoma. Very nice light, very top of the line piece of kit. He machines all of these things himself from scratch, from bar stock. He makes the clips, the screws, everything himself. So this is just an awesome little light here. I do have the DC2, but I think that I'm going to actually get rid of the DC2. I'm really just liking this DCO, and with the benefits of it being a little bit slimmer, a little bit shorter. But the thing that I didn't like about the DC1 was that it was too short. My hand is 4.5 inches from one side of my palm to the other. So when I held the light like this to use it, it was not comfortable to actuate. This is just about perfect while it being slimmer. The only issue is that this does take, I think it's like 1450 batteries or something like that. It's not your standard 1850 milliamp hour or whatever, I forget the number now, battery that you see in a lot of other rechargeable devices. So this would be a light that you need to make sure you have plenty of spare batteries on hand, because I doubt you're just going to walk into a store and they have this size battery. You can buy them on the website when you buy the light, which these are sold out. He did a pre-order and they sold out within, I guess, a couple of hours. But the batteries, I think, are like $2 a piece, so not bad. Jeff is a great guy, great company, great product. I can't say enough about Jeff. And one of the big things, yes, when you go on there and you look at the price of the light, you're going to go, oh my God, how is this light so expensive? One of the things, Jeff, if I broke this light, there's no questions asked. He sends me a loaner light while he fixes my light that he's not even going to ask me how I broke it. And then he's going to send it back to me, no problem whatsoever. So these are the things that I talk about when I bring up some of these products. Now, I'm going to talk about this real quick, and then I'm going to talk about that. Then I'm going to get out of here. We're at 10 minutes, so I'm going to try to keep this short for you guys. This is my small 21 Insingo with the 1, 2, 3 inscription, 1 being knowledge, 2 being wisdom, 3 being understanding. I explained that briefly in my other video. This is just a constant reminder to me that we always need to strive to be informed, to understand, and to grow in wisdom through our knowledge and our understanding of situations. But that comes with the constant quest of knowledge and understanding. So, that's a whole side thing, but I get a lot of questions about it, so I wanted to touch on that. I pulled this out the other day, and one thing a lot of you guys may not know, and some of you guys may, I had this exact knife, a small 21 Insingo, just like this. I carried it for 9 months to work. I was literally so bored of the knife that I could have cried. I was bored to tears. So that's what initially got me into traditional knives, because at the time traditional knives were, $70 to $100. This knife is $400. I could buy 4 traditional knives for the price of this one. It's classy looking. It fits in an office environment. So I could not only have more, so I could swap out and, use whatever fit my mood for the day, but then I also could get more of them because it was cheaper than a Sebenza. And that was, a good deal. So when I picked this knife up the other day, it kind of slapped me in the face. And if you have watched my Chris Reeves playlist, I have a video where I talk about Chris Reeves being the Glock of the knife world, or the Sebenza being the Glock of the knife world, and it really not getting enough appreciation for the knife that it is, for the sum of its parts. And I won't go into all of that here, but you can watch that video over there if you'd like. But when I picked this knife up, after, again, that's where this 1, 2, 3 knowledge, wisdom, understanding comes back into play and ties in with the knife. So it wasn't a rant, it was tied into this. It really made me stop and think about all the things that have gone on over the past year or two, and how 8, 9 years ago, I was holding this exact knife. And even though I grasped the technical machining that went into this knife, and the research that went into the knife, I did not fully grasp just how squared away this knife is all the way around. Not only does it have very refined machining techniques, not only is Chris Reeve the father of the integral lock, or what we commonly call the frame lock, it also has a steel S35VN, which Chris Reeve helped develop. Not only is that steel a pure knife steel, which a lot of you guys don't know, steels typically don't start life as knife steels. They're steels that get transitioned into use in knives. So this is a specific knife steel. Not only that, the steel is very well taken care of in the process. They make sure that their heat treatment benefits all of the qualities of this S30 and now S35 steel. The grinding, now I've read that they've switched over to wet grinding so they don't overheat the blades, etc., etc., etc. And then what really kind of made all that sink in for me is I freehand sharpened my Impinda, and I sharpened it next to another knife, and I got what the freehand guys are saying. The Impinda, which is S35, same as this model because this is a newer model, on a 500 grit Shapton Glass Pro Stone, the ease that it sharpened with, the edge that came up once it was done, the way it stropped and further refined that edge so easily, this exemplifies a knife where every single minute detail has been thought out and executed to some of the highest possible levels that are being done on production lines right now. So that really made me kind of have a new appreciation for this knife when I picked it up the other day. And I know it's a little bit of a long explanation, but I kind of wanted to talk about that. And that's going to kind of roll me into something else. I had a conversation the other day that made me think self-reflect, I guess. The conversation was about some of the language that's being used around this steel talk. And I won't go into anything because I don't want anyone to think I'm speaking to them in particular, but the conversation was about coming together more so than dividing, and not using words that incite emotion. Like controversy is one that everybody has heard used with the HRC debate, another word. I just really hope that when I spoke on my Benchmade experience and I spoke on the things that I have seen using the Benchmade knives that I have had and owned personally, when I said that I personally will not buy another Benchmade knife, that was not meant, I did not have the intent of inciting some kind of emotional response from you all. This is a channel where I share information. I want you to get everything in a transparent fashion. I want you to be as informed as you possibly can. Again, coming right back to this, 1, 2, 3, knowledge, wisdom, understanding. I want you to be as informed as I am and share whatever information I can share, because I know A, everybody doesn't have the time. B, some people will flat out just tell you they don't necessarily have the same level of skill or understanding of the information, so they need someone to kind of filter that a little bit. And same for me. So I'm not saying that in a derogatory way. And some people just need all the information condensed into one place, which there is a website coming, guys. So if you've stuck with me this far, there's a website coming with that exact intention. I'm going to put all the guys' stuff on one page. I want to do some other things, but I don't want to say too much here because I haven't spoken with the other guys. But I hope that my talking about Benchmade and not buying another one did not incite you all to some emotional response, because at the end of the day, presenting information, knowledge, wisdom, understanding, those are concrete things. Those are data points. Those are decisions made based on information you've gathered over a period of time. And that is what this channel is about. So with that being said, A, I hope I did not inadvertently cause that type of reaction. And B, and I've said this to a few people now, called them directly on the phone. I would love to see us come together, because there are only two sides in this thing. There's the manufacturer side of things, and yes, the manufacturing side of things does include marketers, it does include influencers, it does include, you know, if you don't really, if those aren't clear enough, it does include YouTubers and Instagrammers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to promote these products. That's all part of the manufacturing side of the equation. And then you have the consumer side of the equation, which are just guys like me, guys like you, that want to go out, they want to buy a knife, they want to be sure that they make a good purchase, they want to do that based off of information that they can obtain and know that they're getting good information that is coming from a purely objective place, if I can say it that way. So I would love to see us come together, because when the consumers are fighting and dividing up amongst one another, A, it doesn't make any sense, because we're all buying the same products. And if you're buying a product that is marketed as one thing, but then you're receiving something different, that's not helping any of the consumers. Ultimately, what we're doing is we're promoting and helping the manufacturer continue to put out things that don't meet our needs or expectations. And again, I hope that's said in the most diplomatic way possible. That's not meant to incite any type of emotion. I've said it before. Matter of fact, if you go back, I thought about it once I had that conversation the other week. I did a video on my Benchmade playlist where I said this exact same thing when the conversation started to heat up. So go back, look at that. If I can remember, I'll put a card in here. I would check that out. I've blabbered long enough. We're coming up on 20 minutes. I'll do individual videos on all of these things, and I'll end on a high note. If you have stuck around this far, this is going to be the corner piece of a giveaway that I'm going to do. I don't know all of the details. I just found this the other day and some things. This is an Artemis Carry wallet, or passport wallet, I believe is what Matt calls it. Good guy. He's an educator. He's down in Florida. He works a full-time job as an educator, and he does all of this Kydex work on the side. Man, if you have not checked his work out, check him out. He doesn't pay me a thing. Matter of fact, I haven't even talked to Matt in probably 2 years or so, but great guy, educator, hardworking guy, and a guy that's also making some good products for the community. So check him out. This will be part of a giveaway. I don't know what else will be in that giveaway, but if you stuck around this long, keep your eyes open for that. It'll probably take place over on my Instagram page, but I will make a post about it over here in the community tab. That's it, guys. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, as always, put them down below. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope it was informative. I look for some dialogue in the comment section from you guys. Always enjoy hearing your feedback. Videos will be coming on all of these items. I won't say knives, items, because we got a flashlight here soon. Thank you again for watching. I appreciate everything. And remember, a lazy man carries a dull knife.